Welcome back to another edition of Speed Street. We are back mid-January. It is absolutely freezing cold, frozen tundra, pretty much across the Midwest, the Northeast, everywhere, but especially in Indianapolis, Indiana, and in Indiana. So hope you're staying warm out there. Hope that you got your faucets running so you don't have any pipes freezing. I'll get a little bit more into that later. We got a great show for you today, as always. Speed Street presented by Dirty Mo Media, Joey Molinaro. For the YouTube viewers out there, you will not see my face. Well, you will see my face, but it'll be a still image of me with two thumbs up because I'm on dad duty right now, and I got my son with me, and he's one to cuddle up and watch Miss Rachel as I record. So don't want to distract the little guy, and that's why I don't have my video going. But you will see the live motion of Bobby and of Connor Daly, of course, the co-host of this program, which leads me to him. Connor, what's up, man? How we doing? You staying warm?
It's very cold. Goodness gracious. Greetings, everyone. Yeah, man, life is good. It was an absurd weekend of football.
Yes.
I think the funniest thing is to see how really the people's emotions get destroyed, their hearts get destroyed. I have a lot of questions about football. I do. The NFL, fascinating, and we're going to get into it, and I can't wait to talk about it. But yeah, life's good, man. There's a lot of exciting things to talk about. A lot of exciting things. I think this week we have some more news than I expected to talk about. So can't wait to get into it. Producer Bobby, how you doing? What's your life like? How was your weekend? What are we doing? How are we feeling?
Feeling good, buddy. We're freezing here up on Lake Michigan, as you can imagine.
Yeah, worse for you.
Yeah, we're currently sitting at a nice round zero for the temperature. Yesterday, it was literally -3 with a wind chill of -20. So we've been dealing with the elements for sure. But hey, every time I complain about the winter, my dad's like, well, you knew what you were getting into when you were born in this area. So I guess
that's fair.
My decision's been made for me. But no, all is well up here in the region.
I love it. Well, I want to get right into this because there's a lot of IndyCar news. Let's talk about. Okay, first of all, no guests this week. We did record an interview today, which I think we can we will tease this at some point. Alexander Rossi is going to be on this show.
Oh yeah,
eventually, not now, not this episode, but he's going to be on the show eventually. So we will tease that he will be on this show at some point. We did record it today, but he will be on this show eventually. So today you just get to hear from us three idiots for now. But that's fine because there's a lot of great stuff to talk about on this show. And then we've got, I think, two guests as well coming up down the road the next 2 weeks. So we got a lot of cool stuff coming. But this week we had to record it and hold it for a little bit. So again, still going to be a great show. So Alexander Rossi will be on this show eventually, Alex Rossi. But I want to dive directly into this IndyCar news because I think there's something that I found very interesting that I think people here in America, hard for us to grasp. This was hard. This was something that I saw when I actually was racing in Europe, oddly enough, and I'll tell you about it. There's two Dale Coyne Racing seats still available. Two Dale Coyne Racing seats that are very highly coveted. If Dale called me next week, I would drive for him. If he said, hey, Connor, you just got to show up and drive, you know what? I would. That's not what's going to happen. It's really not, because I've already signed my contract to drive the Indy 500. But I don't think it's going to happen. But he still has two seats. So, Joey, I don't know if you saw this, but Daniel Frost was potentially going to be in that seat. There was a lot of discussion about him being there, that he was probably in there. He's got some good support. I got to give a shout out to Daniel Frost because I coached him. His family were very kind to me. His mom and dad, great people. I actually got to give them a shout out because they were extremely kind to me. Really, really enjoyed working with them. I think Daniel's done a great job coming through the series. I saw a lot of potential in him when I coached him. I thought it was great to work with him. So Daniel Frost has, is a winner in the Indy Lights Series, right? Indy NXT. He is a winner, so he has done a lot in the Road to Indy ladder system. But Daniel Frost, I don't know if people read this, he has to go serve in the military. He is from Singapore, right? So Singapore driver. There is apparently a law there. There's a law there in several different countries of the world that people I don't think may not know about. It's sometimes, but there's mandatory military service for young folks as they grow up. But Joey, can you believe that? That's wild. I think there was a story about how it happened, and I think there's a way that either you can. I'm not sure if you can get around it. I am not a military law person, clearly, but there was a story on Racer, obviously, put out that he had to put his race career on hold for 2 years of mandatory military service. I mean, that's wild.
Yeah. No, it's talk about being a countryman. I mean,
yeah.
You gotta do what you gotta do. It's almost like how every year they have the Army Navy game, right? That we all watch this first or second week of December, and they talk about how these guys, they can't go to the NFL. They have to get like special exemptions in order for them to miss out on their military service, so they could go directly to the NFL draft. And so I'm wondering if there's some sort of exemption situation we can get there for Dan.
Yeah, so I think it's officially that's not. I don't think there's going to be an exemption. I don't think in this case there can be, because when you get got by the government, that's usually not. There's usually not getting out of that. So I want to read a little bit just to get a direct quote from the Racer article here. The Singaporean, great word choice by the way. I've not been to Singapore. I would love to go to Singapore. Won the opener in Indy NXT last season. And then he was aligned with Dale Coyne Racing. Quote was, "I'm taking a brief pause from racing to fulfill a compulsory commitment. It's time for me to embark on a new journey in the military, serving my nation in Singapore for the next 2 years." Guys, 2 years is a long time. Like, when you think about this, 2 years, I mean, I don't even know what's going on 2 days from now, and I'm trying to like dread through it and figure out what's going on. 2 years is a long time. Some individuals successfully transition back into racing after their military service, while others do not. I will keep my passion and motivation for motorsports alive in the USA through a public relations effort for our next goal, Indycar. Until then, I put my racing career on hold. Truthfully, it's been disturbing me due to it has been disturbing me due to the disruption of my racing career. I don't know what that means exactly, but that's a direct quote. So yeah, that's crazy. Now, obviously, we do not have to do that in America, right? Like, obviously, back in the day, there was a draft, right? You got drafted into the military, right? This is very similar, I assume, for their situation. Don't know much about it. But there was, I will say, I saw this when I raced in GP3 back in 2012, many moons ago now. I drove for the ART team then. It was me, Daniel Apton, Auro Vigno. Very good Finnish racing driver. Very talented guy. He actually, I remember him mentioning this to me, and he, I believe, also in Finland, there's something similar. I think you have to serve in the military at some point. There might be something similar, but he had told me, he's like, dude, I got to go serve in the military if like I don't do if I don't like win this championship this year. It was some wild thing, and I was like, what? You like have to serve in the military? Crazy. So that's wild. But again, part of you being the citizen of certain countries, you got to serve your duty, at least 2 years in the military, something like that. So I had seen this before, but had not seen this in a long time. And so Daniel Frost, that I think really changes up the landscape of the driver market right now. Daniel Frost had some support. I think there was a lot of talk about him being in Dale Coyne Racing, but now he's got to go be a soldier. I mean, that's wild. I'm sure Dale Coyne was like, okay, what? Like, that's, I mean, talk about Dale Coyne. I mean, that is the most Dale Coyne thing, I think, of all time. Dale Coyne is like TBA, going to be in the military. What? All right, well, now we got a TBA again. Yeah, that's right. Crazy. I feel bad for Daniel Frost because I don't think this is something he expected. Obviously, if you're going down the road of being an IndyCar driver, like, Well, that's crazy. So I feel for Daniel. I mean, 2 years, man. You got all this momentum. You got things going. Gosh, that is hard to take that momentum away. Now, again, I don't know much about the Singapore military. I really don't. I don't know the size of their force or the physical, but I assume he's going to be still fit as can be after 2 years, right? Fit as can be.
Well, yeah, no, that's a good point. You know, he's not just going to be. He's not just going to be sitting on his ass, but I mean, obviously, I'll defer to you here. I mean, it's so much of, I assume that driving one of these vehicles isn't just like, oh yeah, you just hop on the bike and you get your wheels ready to go again. Like I assume, like there's got to 2 years off from being behind the wheel and having those forces and having your being able to get it down to the exact inch, the exact speed that you need. Like, got to be tough to adjust coming back after 2 years. Well, 2 months, let alone 2 years.
Well, the thing that I always like to say is you don't forget how to drive, right? Like drivers, when you get to a certain level. Now he's not got to the top level yet, but he knows the craft, and honestly, he's got much better at the craft. I would believe as he's come through the ladder. I think you don't forget. There will be some sharpening of the skills. Now, again, if he's got the support system around him to where he can be like, boom, as soon as he's out of there, we're going to, or like if you go on leave, is there leave in the 2 years? I don't know. Again, if someone knows about the Singaporean military, please feel free to shine light on us. We're just speculators. This is a speculation program, although I know Daniel and his family, great people. So again, kind of a wild deal. I know that he'll be able to get right back into it, but dude, in 2 years, we might have a new IndyCar. I hope in 2 years, there's a whole new IndyCar, right? In 2 years, let's mark this date down. Tuesday, January 26th, 2026. I would like to have Daniel Frost on the program. I'd like to hear about it. I'd like to hear about what he was doing for 2 years. I'd like to hear about what's going on. If the Speed Street show, well, I certainly hope it's still going.
First dibs.
I call first dibs on Daniel Frost's post-military interview. I'd like to hear about it. And for those who are listening, I would love to hear about what that's like. Just kind of being thrust into that at a young age. But I respect that. Hey, you got country pride. Pride for your country. Hey, you got to do your thing. If that's something you got to do, I respect that. But what a wild thing. I mean, if you would have told me at 18, when I think about what I was doing at 18, like we had just won the Pro Mazda Championship, like I'm like, all I see is IndyCar, like Indy 500. I can't. And if you told me, hey, you got to suit up in the camo, I'm like, man, I have so much respect for our service members here in America. Like, I would be like, that's a what? Like, you have to do it. Like, it's not, you can't say no. It's like, hey, you know what? That would be a wild. Now, again, I completely respect. I love our service members. I represented for the U.S. Air Force, right? I would be like, you know what? All right, if I got to do it, I got to do it. Of course, if you have to do it, you have to do it. There's no way around that. But to think of that emotional, I guess, disconnection, that emotional, like, wow, I went from dedicating my whole life this way, and now you're going literally hard left. That's wild. So, again, wanted to talk about that a little bit.
My question, maybe you can enlighten me here a little bit. You kind of hit on it, like, he had to have known this is coming, right? Or did this like just get implemented this year in Singapore, and it's like, oh shit, this is really bad luck, Dale Coyne, or like, what's the situation there?
Well, I don't want to. I think there's a couple. I got a few texts about this. I had heard a rumor about this, oddly enough, when I was with Jack Harvey at the card shop a couple of days ago. Nice. Because Jack Harvey is trying to be in the Dale Coyne racing team, right? Like Jack Harvey's still fighting for one of those last full-time seats. And I had heard a rumor about this, and I think there's always more to the story that we don't know. But again, never am I going to go on this show and say something that I don't know for sure. I'm going to read obviously I've said that before, but I'm just going to read the release for now, because I don't want, when you're talking about military and stuff like that, you don't want to say things out of turn, because that's, you just don't want to do that. But I'm just going to read the article for now. But I think there's probably more to the story. I assume they knew it, but I assume that there's, when it comes to like dealing with, immigration and borders and governments, like that's tough stuff, far higher than my education level. But I assume that there was something that was just like, oh, yikes, we didn't know this or didn't know that. And now he's gone. So now, he's not gone. He's in the military. So yeah, crazy for Daniel. I do feel bad for him. I'm sure that's a tough deal. Like, when you're about to make your IndyCar debut, or if you're, working on signing a contract, I got to feel for him. But shout out to Daniel Frost for going to serve your country, my man. Hoping IndyCar is in a way better spot, even better spot when you get back. You know what I mean? We'll see what happens. But yeah, I wanted to get your opinion on that, Joey, because shoot, you got kids now. I mean, what if they were called up? Hey, we're going to, they got to serve in the military. Boom, 18 years old or whatever it is. You got to go. That's wild.
Hey, brother, like you said, the way that the entirety of the world is going, I wouldn't put it really much past anything happening in the next 18 to 20 years. Who knows what's going to be going on when Frankie Boy is 18. So, I'm going to hold my tongue and just kind of pray for the best there. But, I mean, my grandparents, my grandpa, but I think both my
grandpa served in the military. Yep.
Was right there, Yep. So that's how it goes, man. That's tough. But like you said, hey, 2 years, you still have his youth.
Yeah,
right? When he's done,
he's young enough to where 2 years, that's all right.
Right.
My age, 20 to 22, was essentially nothing. It was essentially the same era.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So tough break, but I wouldn't be surprised if once we're the first ones on the ground in January 2026 talking to him that he'll be good to go, and it'll be all for the better in IndyCar for him and for the series. So we'll just put a pin in it until January 26th. And
exactly.
In the IndyCar world and the motorsport world, no, 2 years out, we called shotgun on this. This is ours, okay? We're getting shotgun for the road trip on Daniel Frost, all right?
There you go. So that was the major IndyCar news. Now, I think a level deeper, I believe Devlin DeFrancesco is obviously still involved there because he's got some funding. There's rumors that were people on the web were saying there might be a little bit less funding than initially thought of. But we know that if you're going to Dale Coyne Racing, you're going to need funding. There's going to need to be something there. I know Dale, the racer in his heart, he wants to have that guy as well that he can get, passionately behind, like David Malukas, like Justin Wilson when Justin Wilson was there. I thought that was me when I was there because I went in there essentially with no budget. We had a very, very, very limited amount of sponsorship. But that was where I, made my rookie debut. That was where I got my podium, where we were competing for multiple podiums in multiple races. And I felt a lot of love from Dale there. So yeah, very curious to see how that plays out. But let me tell you, they're going to need to figure that out pretty quick. We're halfway through January. I mean, February is when most of the testing starts. If they don't want to get too far behind, I'm going to make a prediction.
Yep.
Before the end of January, at least one Dale Coyne Racing driver is going to be announced. At least one. Just one. Before the end of January. That's my prediction. We got half a month left. I'm gonna predict one driver is gonna be signed by end of January.
Good. Mark that down as well.
Mark it down.
Here we go. A little bit of bummer news that broke, I think, right after we recorded last week. We had talked a little bit about it, kind of around the outside of it with the IROC news last week. I know that was a big topic of discussion. And then kind of the what's going to happen with SRX. How will that affect SRX? And I'm pretty sure same day, or at least the next day, that they're postponing the fourth season of SRX racing in the summer, which I know we mentioned last week, and that was before we knew. But just a real bummer, man. Real bummer.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Our show literally, we literally put out that clip, and I think later in the day, that they announced that there was going to be no season. So it's a shame, right? But the way motorsport works, and this is from F1 all the way down to USF 2000, right? It takes money. There is a financial element. All these people that put the series on, they have to make a living. All those people are not going to work for free to put something on. There has to be enough cash flow to keep cars with things that are safe enough for drivers to drive, right? And drivers have to be paid. There has to be sponsors. And when you're fighting for all this real estate, with F1, NASCAR, IndyCar, everyone's fighting for the same real estate of sponsorship. It's hard. And it just makes your heart feel a little bit bad, though, because I thought that was such a fun time in motorsport. I loved watching the races. I loved commentating on the races. That was one of my highlights of my own personal year last year was commentating on those races. I very much enjoyed it. I enjoyed working with the team there, Alan Bestwick, all the folks at SRX, Tony Stewart, the production team that we had there. I mean, incredible people. So, it's very sad to see because Tony put a lot into that. All the drivers, put a lot into that. It was just a fun thing. And a lot of people bought tickets for the events this year too. So, you hate to see, that folks having to get refunded for tickets. So anytime something like that happens, it's just overall sad. There's no happy story to it. We got to hope. I hope obviously, for the sake of a unique racing championship that IROC is successful, obviously. But, I don't know what that's going to be like. If they can sell it, if they can figure out a way to make it profitable or make it sustainable, then awesome. But yeah, I thought the SRX folk, there are a lot of just great folks there. I mean, even, the crew chiefs they had there were high quality people. The mechanics were great people. Everyone at SRX, everyone there was really passionate about motorsport. And so you love to see that. But again, motorsport's hard. It's hard to make, as they say, to make $1 million in motorsport, you got to start with $1 billion, or something like that. Like the easiest way to become a millionaire is to start with $1 billion in motorsport. So it's a tough one, and hate to see that for all of our friends there and the people that employed me and that got me to the races. And it kind of, I guess, clears. I thought I was going to do more of the commentary there, so I guess I got to fill some Thursdays or whatever, Thursday Night Thunder on my schedule now in the future.
Now, they said postponement. Does that leave the door open at all, or is it just straight?
I hope so. Yeah, I don't actually know much about it. I don't know much about the situation. I text the head of our production team on the TV side, and I said, hey, it was awesome working with you guys. And she said, yeah, it's very sad and hate to see it, but we'll see what happens, obviously, right? So right now it's on pause. Obviously, there are still race cars there, and those are pretty cool race cars. There is still physical stuff there, so they have a shop, they have space, right? So let's say they find a big investor. If you find a big investor, all of a sudden that thing's refired immediately. So they had a good relationship with ESPN and CBS, obviously, I think. So we'll see. But until now, sadly, we don't get to watch Thursday Night Thunder and react to some amazing racing between IndyCar's finest and NASCAR's finest and some local dirt racers.
Yep, for sure. Yeah. Well, if that is the total end, yeah, we definitely enjoyed it, no doubt about it, and we'll miss it very much. Mentioning NASCAR, in the last week we saw NASCAR getting a little preview. They had a little teaser trailer for their Netflix series that's going to be coming out, which is very exciting. But also it's like, damn, now how mainstream, even more mainstream and trendy is NASCAR going to be, like Formula One has become, where everybody's going to have the NASCAR jackets and what I mean?
Not that they already don't.
Right, but the big graphic, you're going to be seeing those Dr. Pepper Pit Crew jackets or the old Jack Gordon ones or all that.
The 7-Up special. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so exciting. I think it's a good look. In my opinion, I'm thinking, like we're talking about, even though IndyCar already had, 100 Days of Indy last year, if you see the success from Formula One, you see the success from NASCAR, then, hey, I hope that would lend for somebody to be like, well, what about this IndyCar series here where they're going super fast and they have the biggest event in the world? What were your thoughts on the trailer, and what do you think about, what that's going to do for the world of NASCAR?
I mean, look, I thought the trailer was awesome. You get Marty Smith and his fantastic voice start talking to me about something, I'm like, I love what's going on here. So racing, being fast, loud, explosive, exciting, all that stuff. I mean, I assume as a video editor, you're probably like, I got everything I need to make something exciting, right? So they did it with F1. They're going to do it with NASCAR because it looked good. And obviously we don't want to judge it until it comes out. As always, there are going to be people who hate it and there are going to be people who love it. But NASCAR's only goal is that it's on the front page of Netflix and they get, a million new fans. Who knows? There are some people to tune in, right? I can't wait to see what it turns out to be. I think, again, we are now the third, we're the third leg. We're out of the Netflix pool. You know what I mean? Like, we got to get in there. It doesn't matter if there's F1, NASCAR, and IndyCar shows on there. If you put that IndyCar show main page, you're going to get a ton of people to watch it, right? It's going to be something exciting. So I don't think we're going to get there. I think there's a lot of great progress with 100 Days to Indy. I do believe that we're going to see more 100 Days to Indy. I really do. I think that group did a great job. And I got a couple positive responses to that 100 Days to Indy show the other day. I do believe we'll see more of that. We keep hearing, being told that there is more activity along the lines of another season of 100 Days to Indy, which I think would be great.
This year?
Yeah, I do believe this year. Yeah. So they're probably going to get going on that. I assume soon. And I hope that's part of an official announcement at some point. Obviously, it's very early still, in we're not even close to the season yet. But I think there's a lot that 100 Days to Indy learned from the first show that they can take into the second show. Obviously, I will not be in the second show unless I win the 500, which that's the plan. But yeah, the Netflix thing for NASCAR is great. Part of me thought, though, I was like, wait a second, when did they start filming that? Am I going to be in a Netflix show somehow, like flashing by, or my car breaking down or something like that? I don't know. If they were filming at Daytona last year, technically I was at Daytona in the 500. So technically, did I participate in a Netflix show? Maybe. I was at COTA. I was at Daytona 500. Yeah. Maybe Connor Daly's in a Netflix show. I don't know. I'm certainly not planning to keep part in it, but I participated. So that feels exciting.
You know what, though? Yeah, I'm in that entertainment comedian world where, hey, it's all about being able to say as seen on such and such, and so you throw as seen on Netflix on there you go, right?
If you happen to watch the NASCAR Netflix show and you happen to catch a glimpse of that number 50 car or RB somewhere, let's just screenshot it. Let's hang that up. Let's hang a banner for it, as they say, hang the banners. Just like the Lakers did for the in-season tournament, we hang the banner in a Netflix show about NASCAR as a three-time NASCAR Cup starter. So hang the banner.
Yeah. And more NASCAR news coming off of that. Just dropped today, I think, or yesterday. Jimmy Johnson is going to be expanding. We're going to see old 7-time back in the big ones, right? He's going to be doing Daytona. He's going to be doing Talladega, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, Brickyard 400 and Daytona 500 is what I saw, right? Is that right, Bobby? I think that's what I saw. Is that correct? Yeah. So I mean, you got to know Jimmy was going to do Daytona and Indy. I mean, he loves Indy, loves Daytona. Love to see that for Jimmy. Obviously, that his family went through some crazy, sad stuff last year. So it'll be good to see him just back with a smile on his face at the NASCAR in the NASCAR realm. And yeah. Great for that team. They also signed the Dollar Store, or no, Family Dollar. Like, they have a big deal now with the Family Dollar group. So they
Dollar General.
Yeah, they got all not Dollar General, but it's Family Dollar, I think. So the Family Dollar, there's like a bunch of companies in that group of Family Dollar, and they now are a sponsor of Legacy Autosport, Legacy Motor Club, or whatever it is. So good for them. Good for the Legacy Club getting the Dollar Store. I respect that.
How about good for our pal, friend of the show. I will always say that, friend of the show, Jimmy Johnson, because he took 30 minutes on his carpool to pick up his daughters and chatted with us, and I will always be grateful. To be able to ask him his handsome grizzly face questions. So looking forward to that coming up here very soon.
And then quick more NASCAR news as well.
Yeah.
there was a big ARCA test. The ARCA series is the fourth rung of the ladder in the NASCAR world. And we had a friend, Marco Andretti, out there. Shane Van Gisbergen as well. NASCAR Cup Series winner, going all the way back to the start in the ARCA test to get used to the super speedway stuff. It's kind of wild to see that ARCA test because I think those cars are, in racing terminology, very cheap to run, right? So, and Daytona, you're just holding the gas open and hoping that thing just doesn't break. And as someone who's driven a stock car flat out around Daytona by myself, it's pretty simple. I'm not going to lie, pretty simple. I don't know what those cars are like, but a lot of people learn, and there's like 60 drivers or something absurd, just getting experience there, trying to get some laps in at Daytona. I love that they do that, though. I mean, to get 60, 65 drivers or whatever in and out of these cars, that's a pretty cool deal. And Marco was really fast. Marco was in the top 5, top 10, I think, for the most part. So, yeah, good to see Marco up near the front there. Shane Van Gisbergen getting experience as his first step on the ladder to being a NASCAR professional. So yeah, it was good to see both a bit of, exciting international flair, and then Marco Andretti as well, an American hero, getting out there and being fast in an ARCA car. So I'm curious to see what Marco's schedule is going to be like. That hasn't really been announced yet, but after spending some time at Marco's house, I kind of know what, a little bit of what he's trying to do, and I'm excited for him. I think there's still a lot of announcements in play for motorsport in general. Like, usually you think by January, everyone's kind of got their stuff planned out, but like, there's a lot we're going to need to stay tuned to when it comes to the NASCAR realm, the IndyCar realm. So good for us. We got things to talk about, things to look at. And, I certainly hope on my side, I know I told everyone here on this show that last Friday was an important day. And so we want to keep that momentum going. And it was a good day. It was a good day Friday. I think we need just it's all, when you're in January, every day matters. So like, I'm trying to work my butt off to get all this stuff done so you can like just focus on the racing part. I have not been able to focus on the racing part yet. I'm just working on making sure we get the partners in line, we get people together, we put the program in place. And I got to thank, Todd Alton and his group for working with us and putting, making progress. But we'll see. Obviously, it's not done yet, or else you'd see it. The thing that I keep telling people is, I was like, I think we took 2 steps forward, but we just needed 3. So I'd like to take that 3rd step, hopefully this week. I honestly think by the end of this week it needs to be done, or it's probably not going to happen at all. So we'll see. Fingers and toes crossed, but we're definitely not out of the fight. We didn't get the negative. It wasn't like a, hey, this is wrong. We're still in the fight. We're still in the hunt for things. And so, fingers and toes crossed. We'll see what happens. I also just got a text about another random race to do, which is kind of interesting. Maybe more to do with Nitrocross again. I don't know. We'll see. So we're trying to stay busy. We're trying to stay busy. There's also maybe some sports car stuff later on in the year to do. There's good stuff happening, but for now, I literally just sit here at my house, make calls, try to get things done, send out stuff, get things back, and I walk around like a chicken with my head cut off, just hoping something happens. So that's how we lie. That's how we live right now.
Hey, man. You gotta, that's what you gotta do. Hey, you gotta, the hustle's out there, and we know you're hustling. So we're
hustling.
Fingers crossed to hear good news. Hopefully we'll have, like your earlier prediction, we'll have some of those announcements by the end of January here. That'd be great.
End of January could be neat.
Yes.
But we'll see. I mean, there's fingers and toes crossed. Just keep sending all the positive vibes. We're gonna get it sorted. But yeah, I wanted to talk real quick about football. I know we've spent a lot of time talking, but I found something very funny. I was watching the Chiefs game. Obviously, Chiefs Dolphins look very cold there, right?
Oh, you have a problem subscribing to Peacock for that?
No, I am a Peacock owner, obviously, because of IndyCar racing. Boom.
Right. That's right.
23 million viewers, most streamed event in the history of the world. Come on, guys. I don't want to hear anyone in the IndyCar world complaining about Peacock. They got 23 million people to watch an NFL game. If you really want to watch it, you're going to do it. And I'm sorry.
But you guys have Taylor Swift at your race.
No Taylor Swift.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Peacock is not that hard to get. I've actually watched plenty of other things on Peacock too, so I actually
There's a lot of great programming on there.
I know. So we're NBC fans, but I still think the NFL could tell you to watch a game on like HGTV and everyone will watch it. It could be on the Science and Alien Network, which I don't even know if it's a TV channel, but I'm sure it's part of some DirecTV package or Spectrum package that you can get. Everyone would watch it. It's just powerful. And I think, honestly, they might just be messing around with people. They're like, can we make a little extra money doing this? Perfect. And so they're just going to sell it to anyone. So
what would be funny is if the NFL really wanted to have a power trip, they say, hey, we're not going to tell you which streaming service it's going to be on. You just got to get them all and flip through it and figure it out. And
it's like a mystery game.
I guarantee you probably at least 15 million people would have every single streaming service. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
So it could happen.
But one thing I noticed from this game, which, obviously very cold, right? But it's when they show Taylor Swift, it's kind of a sad reality that humanity is a part of right now, because when they cut to those camera shots, she's literally doing nothing, and someone is like recording her. Someone is holding their phone up like right in front of, as high as they can get it. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, what? We're all like, she is a human being as much as we are all human beings. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you know what? Sure, if I've seen someone really famous in a situation, I'm going to, hey, cool. I might take a picture if possible. But I just sitting there, like, trying to record every minute of that. Like, every time you looked up, it was someone else, like, at a really awkward angle. And it's like, man, I think she would enjoy, like, just being respected as a human more than, like, and obviously, it's never going to change. Like, if you see someone really famous, we're all, humanity, they're like, oh, look at this. This is crazy. We're going to put it on TikTok or something like that. It's a sad, but I wanted to say to people, I was like, darn it. It's kind of a shame that, that happens. Because obviously I don't feel bad for Taylor Swift. I think she's the most famous human on the planet, I think, currently. But I was like, maybe it would just it would look better for humanity if, like, when they showed that shot, it was just Taylor watching the game and then everyone else watching the game. And it's just like, oh, cool. Like, we're all humans. But turns out that's not true. So I felt like saying something about that. The Taylor Swift Vision cameras are just wild, and like, it's just hilarious to see, as humans. Now, look, we see if you're doing something, you're always filmed. Like, we get it. Like, even at Indy 500, like, everyone's filmed doing everything, right? Which is cool. But it's just like that it's just such a wild reality that we're living in. Does that make sense, Joey? It's just amazing.
It definitely does. But it's almost like what is more sad, that or the people who, like, go out of their way on Twitter to freak out about how annoying it is.
Yeah.
Like, what? I mean, really? Like, she's just there watching a football game.
She's just watching football.
Watching her boyfriend, like, she can't help it. It's almost like how, like, I make fun of it a lot about, like, the Bronny James treatment, right? It's like, he can't do anything that his dad's LeBron James. It's the people who are doing it. Like, it's the camera crews and the directors at NBC that are like, hey, we need to have a Taylor cam. It's the people on ESPN who post 6 Bronny James posts in, like, 2 days. Like, it's not the people, it's the people doing it, That's frustrating. But at the same time, it is. It's like, you got the people who love it a ton, you got the people who are obviously going to hate it a ton, and that's just humanity, and it is annoying. And I personally think that everybody needs to just set their phone down in an upstairs room for like 3 hours or 4 hours, and just, like, kind of take a break and not interact with that. Just kind of remember that we're living in, like, a real time world with real people and
a real world.
Yeah, everybody just needs a little break. But you mentioned that the football weekend was crazy, and that you had some problem. What happened? Did you lose bets? What was the issue here?
Well, obviously, yeah, I had 4 different 4-leg parlays that all missed by one because I love gambling on sports. You know, that's fun. Football, obviously, that's probably the only thing that we're allowed to gamble on. But yeah, I think what happened. Now, my first question is, I think easy to predict the Dolphins losing, but there were no good games. Like there was one good game, the Lions game, right? Yep. So what happened to all these teams? Like the Texans absolutely doing terrible things, to the other team. Texans, I mean, I could have seen that, but like, why was it a complete blowout? Like, what happened to all these teams? And Joey, I feel bad. Your Steelers look like heroes the last few weeks, and I just what happens to these teams that make the playoffs and the games are awful.
Well, I think what you're seeing is what you're going to see, unfortunately, next year with the college football playoff expanding to 12 is that, it's more is not always better.
Yes.
So you get the wild card weekend where they added 2 more teams so they could have more games, and then you're seeing like, oh, maybe that doesn't need to be the case. Maybe we don't need to have more games. Maybe we just need to get right to the divisional round. That's this weekend where those games probably will be a lot better, right? Like, yeah, just because you're expanding to 12 teams in college football playoff doesn't mean that like you really think that the 5-12 game is going to be the savior. It's going to be this great game and it's going to make everybody super into it. Like, no, it probably isn't. Like, it's just not more is not always the answer.
Yeah,
and I think you see that in Wild Card Weekend majority of the time. Unfortunately for Cowboys fans, it worked in the opposite way.
Like the Cowboys looked like a peewee football team, and same with the Browns. Like the Browns look like heroes. Like everyone's like, oh, they're gonna Browns in the Super Bowl. It's like, what? Like what happens to all these people? I just don't get it.
It was so bad for the Browns and the Cowboys that they made the Steelers-Bills game look close.
I know.
That's how bad it was. So
yeah.
Weird weekend. Playoff football is always very exciting, but it was kind of a letdown. But I think, Connor, this weekend is the weekend that we're really going to be
entertainment.
This is the great stuff right here. Is the divisional round. This is going to be the real bangers, which I'm excited for. Should we get into podium real quick?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, well, let's we covered most of our racing news. So yeah, let's get into our weekend podium.
Sweet, fired up.
Yeah, so I'll start with my third place. And then we kind of talked about this, but my third place is just that racing news is in full swing again, right? Like even stuff we didn't talk about. Like we had the Chili Bowl, Kyle Larson not making the final in Chili Bowl. You had Logan Seavey winning the Chili Bowl again. Like we got Chili Bowl to watch. We got racing news to watch. We got people going to the military instead of driving race cars. We got all kinds of stuff, and it just means that we're back. Like it's vacation season is over, and we're locked in. So it made me excited to think about as I was thinking about this podium. I was like, shoot, I just like that we got a bunch of stuff to talk about. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Love it. Yeah, no, it's fully 2024. And like you mentioned, we were talking with Alexander Rossi, which you'll hear at a later day, which is a really fun conversation. But it would just I'm glad you mentioned that because talking with him, it really just and looking ahead to all the stuff that come, I'm like, wow, it is finally here. For me, my football team is done playing for the year, so now I'm fully into like, let's get into racing. Let's get it going, and it's here, so that's great. Third place for me is not having your pipes freeze. As mentioned off the top, it is super ridiculous cold in the Midwest and in Indianapolis. And last year, I don't know if you remember, Connor, I had that situation where I had pipes freeze, and then they burst, and then it was raining from my ceiling, and we had to go through a whole thing. And so right before it got to be super, super cold over the weekend, my mom was like, hey, be sure to turn on your faucets. And we turned on our faucets, I think, just in the nick of time to keep those running. And we avoided disaster, knock on wood, I hope. But, for everybody out there, that's not a situation you want to go through. So just, leak those faucets a little bit, and hopefully you'll save yourself some time and some money.
Cheers to faucets. Cheers to the faucets. All right, Bobby, what do you got for us on your P3?
P3 for me is, I don't know if you guys saw, but, I'm sure you guys saw, but Indianapolis Airport set up a full-size basketball court in anticipation for the All-Star game.
Cool.
Made me proud as a Hoosier, just because I feel like, Indiana catches a lot of guff when you talk to our fellow Americans for one reason or another, but we do sports so good. And this year, for basketball, Indianapolis has been tremendous. So between the Pacers dominating and now this basketball court, it's really, really cool to see.
So it's funny you mentioned that. I was flying home from Marco's house, and this is actually P2 on my list, not the court, but when we flew home, I was like, what is this? What's going on here in the middle of the airport? Like this huge space. And we were just like, all right, whatever, I got to go home. But when I saw the photo of that, I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. So I have to fly again on Friday. So I will definitely be checking that out. It looks pretty cool.
Do we have any confirmation? Like, can you get any shots up? Like,
that's a great question.
Free, or is it off limits? Like, just to look at?
I mean, throwing balls around an airport could get dangerous. So I knock a couple kids out. Like, it's just bad.
It's true.
Anyway, so P2 for me, this is kind of like what I was talking about flying. So I had an all-star flight from Charlotte back to Indy. This is kind of when the weather was going crazy last weekend. I flew home. Actually, well, we haven't recorded since then, but the flight was delayed. But I got on the flight, and thankfully I got upgraded to first class. Shout out American Airlines, executive platinum. Feel like an old man now that I've accomplished this. But I got an upgrade, and in first class, it's me, Connor DeFilippi, who's been a friend of the show. He's been on the show before, BMW sports car driver. Scott McLaughlin, and Will Power. Is that right in front of me too? And then on comes Tucker Barnhart, a big time baseball player as well from Indiana. So I'm like, shoot, we got an all-star lineup here on the flight from Charlotte to Indy. I didn't know what Tucker was doing, but I told Tucker literally as he walked by, I was like, what's up, bro? We got to get you on the show. I've been trying to get Tucker on Speed Street for years. So we've got to have Tucker on the show. It's good to see him. I texted him. I was like, man, we were really part of an all-star flying cast. So shout out to that American flight for not going down, and no doors were flying off that one, because we had a lot of good people on that plane.
Yeah, that's always fun.
Yeah.
You guys any airtime beverages together, or was it just
no? Everyone's in preseason mode, so we've all backed off the throttle. So it's all sleeping and watching television shows on our phones.
Gotcha. That's fair. P2 for me, I got to give it to the Costco membership. My wife had a birthday, and for her birthday, she was gifted from my mom a Costco membership, and so because she has one, that I get to be a part of that.
Nice.
So I got my own little Gold Star card and everything, the photo on the back. We went yesterday, and man, you want to talk about a way to spend an afternoon. You go on to Costco, you're a membership
samples.
holder, you feel like you're a part of something. You get to flash the card. You don't have to use your mother-in-law's anymore. You can just go in there. Hey, I'm in here. I got the card. I'm good to go. And what a selection they have of all sorts of great things. So I'm going to go to the Costco membership. Do for me.
I'm going to put that on my Christmas list for next year. I want a Costco membership. That'd be awesome.
Nice.
My girlfriend's a member. Yeah. I've gone with her in California, so I get to. We like to go and have the samples. Like, we're just going to go around and have some samples, maybe get some food. Samples are great.
Costco in California, that's got to be interesting.
It's a war zone. I'm not going to lie. It's an absolute war zone. Then Burbank, the one in Burbank is like, woo! I have never seen anything like that place. It is a complete and utter dogfight for stuff in there. But Bobby, what's up? What's your P2?
So I know, Connor, you talked a little bit about this, or we talked a little bit about this earlier, but P2 for me is, and I'm going to lump two things together, but the new NASCAR Netflix show, and I revisited 100 Days to Indy.
Oh, nice.
Those types of shows, I think getting made is going to be, P2 for me. I think, we talk a lot about how do we entice a new generation of race fans. I think, as younger people become less and less interested in cars in general, I think these shows that kind of show like the human side of racing and these characters, this is how we're going to bring in new race fans. So it's really encouraging to see. And I really do hope like there is a new season of the Indy show. I also read news about it possibly the first season getting on new streaming platforms, which is exciting. Hopefully that ends up being
that's the rumor mill. That is the rumor mill. Stay tuned.
So those I think I said I talk about that with I'm friends with a lot of race fans that are all older than me, and they're like, young kids don't care about racing. It's like, well, the world's changing. Obviously, they might not care as much about cars as older generations do, but like they do care about the people. And the more that we put these very interesting characters in the race cars on display, I think more new race fans will get.
I mean, I agree. There are a lot of interesting people out there. There are stories that haven't been told on a big enough level. So, completely agree. So I like that. All right. So P1 for me, and Bobby kind of alluded to it, but P1 for me is the NBA All-Star Weekend here in Indy coming up. The NBA All-Star Weekend, it's feeling pretty cool. Like to have it in Indy, I think is awesome. I did get to go to the NBA All-Star Weekend my rookie year in IndyCar with Hinch and Joseph Newgarden, oddly enough. It was in Toronto, and during that weekend in Toronto, it was the coldest I've ever been as a human in my life. At one point, James Hinchcliffe and I were at a party with Shaq, and then we hid in a phone booth outside waiting for an Uber because it was so cold. So, an amazing weekend. I know that like I've already seen tickets for like the celebrity game on the Friday are already sold out at Lucas Oil Stadium. So just excited for our city here. I think it's a great opportunity to hopefully market the IndyCar series as well. I mean, this is our home, right? The Indy 500, market the Indy 500. It's the same weekend as Daytona in NASCAR, which is like obviously if I somehow in my magical world of dreams end up racing something in the NASCAR world, I won't be here for it. But if everything comes crashing down in a giant pit of flames, then I'll probably enjoy the All-Star Weekend. So, I just think it's awesome. I think it's a great opportunity for our city. I think it's a great opportunity for our sport, IndyCar in general. I do hope that there's somehow IndyCar involved, or there's some sort of references somewhere, or there's something's done at the Speedway. But yeah, the basketball court at the airport is incredible. Our airport is the best in the country, without a doubt, maybe the best in the world. So yeah, I'm excited for NBA All-Star Weekend for us as a city, and just all the people that come to town, maybe for the first time.
Yeah, definitely. Well said. Didn't even think about it that way, but it should be. And I'd like to think that there definitely will be a flavor of that. So, good stuff. My P1 is going to go back to the football weekend. It's actually going to go to the Green Bay Packers quarterback development.
Oh,
I don't know what kind of secret sauce magic these folks have up there in Green Bay, Wisconsin, but obviously,
incredible.
I mean, 3 for 3. We're going on a 30-year run, 3 for 3 of finding consecutive back-to-back-to-back quarterbacks that are going to be your quarterback, that are going to have you in the playoffs, that are going to give you a shot to hoist the trophy. I mean, Jordan Love just absolutely torched Dallas in Dallas, and he's arguably been the best player in football over the last 8 weeks of the season. Like, the guy has been unreal, and I mean, just kudos to them, man. Like, we're in Indy, and so we had Manning to Luck, right? And we're used to that. And then you saw what has transpired over the last 7 years since Luck got hurt and then retired. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, absolutely unfathomable what you go from Favre to Rodgers to now looking like Jordan Love. I mean, just out of respect, just a tip of the cap and an applause for them for whatever recipe they have for being able to make it work, man, because nobody else in the NFL has been able to do it like that.
Man, Jordan Love looked good. He looked real good. And after a couple games this season, I thought he looked like a clown. He did not look like a clown yesterday in the playoffs. Yeah. Did not look like a clown. Bobby, finish us off here.
So P1 for me is going to be to Flow Racing, the app, streaming app. Yeah. Connor, you mentioned it at the head of this. We had Chili Bowl weekend over the weekend. And I was thinking back to a time when the Chili Bowl was just on MAV TV. You had to have DirecTV, which my family didn't do. So we had to reach out to friends that had DirecTV and go through the winter tundra to their houses to maybe watch the Chili Bowl in their garage. This past Saturday, I enjoyed dirt late model races at Vado in New Mexico. And then as soon as that race took the checkered flag, flipped it over, and the midgets were getting pushed off for the Chili Bowl. So just perfect execution by Flow Sports. And just, it's a tremendous time to be a short track racing fan. We have literally just thousands of races at our fingertips that, even 5 years ago, it wasn't a possibility.
Yeah. I mean, I even can click on YouTube and there's dirt racing being streamed, and I don't know where it is. I don't know what's going on, but I'm just like, yeah, I'll watch some racing. I don't mind. So it's pretty cool. So with that, we close out our podium. Great stuff. And yeah, I think we can get to the end of the show. We can get to our favorite segment, the random Indy 500 driver of the week. I think we put a great program out here today. But this week I went old, and I honestly thought that we had used this driver before. I saw his name. I was like, we have to have had this guy on before. But I looked at the list, and it's not on the list. So the 1939 Indy 500, I went with the 1939 race. And I went with the dead last place finisher who made $525. He made $525 finishing last, which is more than you'd make now if you finished last in the Indy 500. Deacon Litz. Deacon Litz is this person's name. Arthur Benson Deacon Litz, born in 1897 in Pennsylvania, American race car driver. Litz was a hotel keeper by trade, and was said to weigh 224 pounds.
Hey now.
That's wild. He's out here playing for the NFL potentially. That's kind of crazy. He started racing with his own homemade car on dirt tracks at county fairs after World War I. Deacon began his professional racing career in 1927. But I looked at his Indy 500 results. He was in a lot of them, like 1928 through 1941. I mean, there was a lot. That's a lot of Indy 500s. So
fourth place finish in 1934, eighth place in 35.
I mean, a couple top tens for our boy Deacon here. So that's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive.
How about this too? Due to his fame as a race car driver, he appeared in the 1929 silent film Speedway.
Movie star. Deacon is a movie star. That's wild. That's crazy. He retired from the sport after his last Indy 500 in 1941. Litz was noted for being an excellent speaker regarding the sport of speedway racing after his retirement. That's crazy. Well, there you go. That's Litz was the first so this is kind of random. I don't know. This is Wikipedia, so you never know if you can trust this information. Litz was the first person to apply to be in the 1935 Indy 500, putting in his application 6 months before the race date. He was ready. He was ready for racing, old Deacon was. 12 Indy 500s. I haven't quite got there yet, but 12 of them.
That's good, man. That's a good one. Hey, last place finishers need love too, man.
Absolutely. I finished last once. I didn't even start the race.
See? All right. Thank you very much for that, Connor. Good stuff. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We have some good stuff on the horizon. The Alexander Rossi interview coming that we chatted with him today. So be on the lookout for that. Obviously, keeping fingers and good vibes for Connor and the news coming his way for sure. And yeah, I mean, we got the center of the sports world coming to us all the month of February with the All-Star break, with the NFL Combine, all of these things that are going to be right here. So, if you see people out the bar that maybe look like they're from, not here, they're not an IndyCar fan, spread the good word, spread the gospel, and spread the gospel about Speed Street as well. Do us all a favor. So we appreciate you very much. And for Connor Daly, for Bobby, is it Marcos? Is it Bobby Marcos? Am I saying that right?
You are saying that right, just like it's spelled.
Got it. Perfect.
Awesome.
Bobby Marcos, Joey Molinaro. Till next time, we'll talk to you on Speed Street.
Hey everyone, Connor Daly here. Please leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it, and also subscribe to the channel as well. That would be very helpful. Be a friend, tell a friend. Thank you so much for the support, and we'll see you on the next episode of Speed Street.